really honored to be here. When Evan told me about the project and the notion of influences, I had just been reading this book that I'm going to share just a tiny bit of with you because I'm part of, at least sometimes part of the curated cast of a group called Naked Girls Reading, which is kind of about like you would expect. And although I am currently clothed, I've done this, and I actually read some of this book naked a month or two ago, and it was big fun. I decided to choose my friend Michelle T as my influence. She is such an amazing writer. She is the author of Valencia. Some of you may know of that novel. It's one of those sort of only in San Francisco, San Francisco zeitgeisty novels. And she runs the Radar Reading Series, which is once a month at the library. She's involved in the Radar gang that goes to Mexico to write together as a writers group every summer, and I have yet to get in on that, which is why her prose is so awesome, and mine is sounding like I need to go to Mexico to be in the writers group. But you'll forgive me, I think. You understand that. And what I wanted to read from and talk to you about and riff off of is Rose of No Man's Land, which is Michelle's young adult novel. It has more lesbianism and methamphetamine in it than any other young adult novel I've ever seen. And I am riffing off Rose of No Man's Land into a memoir, with no methamphetamine, but what I love about this book is that she captures a voice of a young person on the cusp of and teetering on. As a matter of fact, in one day, this is one of those one-day Bildungsroman novels, she captures this voice of this fabulous, fabulous young person discovering so much in one day, and it made me think about the time that I was in the world discovering things, and since I'm working on a memoir, I wanted to riff off the wonderful way that she does what she does about youth and youth's voice. So that's what I'm trying to get at in my influence, just in case it doesn't come through. I just wanted to tell you. And I just want to read you a little bit. This is just the very beginning of Rose of No Man's Land. It gets radder as you get to about chapter 20. But then I didn't want to distract you from my work. So I found out from Christy that Kim Porciotti tried to kill herself. Kim Porciotti didn't go to my school, Mogsfield High, and she didn't go to the vocational school like Christy, the one called the Vogue. The vocational school frowns on that nickname because it sounds too trashy. They're trying to get people to call it Metro Tech instead, short for the Eastern Metropolitan Technical Vocational School. That's the school's real name, but not even people who go there can keep it straight. It sounds like some sort of government institution you could learn to fly planes and fix air conditioners at, as opposed to a rundown high school for pot-smoking hicks learning plumbing and girls with bad hair and no future studying data processing. People get real excited about the Vogue at first because it's so different from regular schools. Girls who go there say things like, oh, it's just like real life, with this sort of superiority as they exhale a plume of Marlboro Light. But once the novelty wears off, you realize you're actually working a really shitty job you're not getting paid for. Companies hire the students to process their data for wicked cheap. They pay the school and the students, all girls, in data processing, and they do the work and never see $1. How is that even legal? I guess the really great bit is you're supposed to get taught about how to process data, which is supposed to be a valuable job skill. Except you learn how to do that in like 15 minutes, and then for the next 3 years, that's all you do. Then you graduate and find a job doing more data processing, and you do that until you die, either from natural causes like cancer, or from some deliberate suicide, whichever comes first. It's fucking depressing. Plus, learning that someone you know tried to kill herself will put you in a dark space, even if you don't particularly like the person. Christy, my sister, made it into the cosmetology shop because that's how life goes for her. She tends to get whatever she wants, which is why she's now going after the real world. She's positive she can be the teenage hairdresser from an impoverished New England town character, and she's been obsessively putting together her audition tape. Christy's got this natural, bossy sunniness that makes people think she's more capable than she actually is. She's a know-it-all who really doesn't know that much, and one thing I've learned from her is that if you say something in the right tone of voice, hardly anyone will challenge you. Another thing I've learned is that in the event of a challenge, you just stand your ground until the other person becomes exasperated, filled with doubt, or plain bored, and poof, you win. Christy's great at that, like that period pill argument. I am certain that the period pill, the one they have all those commercials for, with the women flipping out over something stupid like her shopping cart getting tangled in the other shopping carts, is just a huge dose of Prozac. I've given up trying to convince Christy that it is not some genius new medicine, that it is just another way to sneak more people onto antidepressants. It is irritating to see Christy gloating like she won this debate, but it's simpler than fighting about it forever. What the fuck do I care about anyway? It's not like I'm going to take that stupid pill. Michelle T. Also like Michelle, she and I are the fastest readers in San Francisco, which hopefully means I'm going to squeeze all this in. That, I believe, was set in the 1990s or even maybe the thousands sometime. This is called Cannon Beach, 1974, and its subtitle is Everyone Knew Her as Nancy. You can't really drive right to Cannon Beach from anywhere. Whether or not your dad drives you to your first ever place you'll ever live on your own outside of home in high school, or whether you will take the bus. If you take the bus from anywhere but Portland, it will take like a year. From Portland, it can take maybe only half a day. It's not that far, but there's hardly any way to get there, which maybe accounts for its feeling that it is a town out of time. I mean, it's an old town, but it's also new, because the hippies rediscovered it, and they must have been all the way off the beaten path when they did. But that's what hippies are into, obviously. So now it has a sort of new feeling, modern to the extent that hippies are modern, which they are, but not. Like Apollonia's Cafe, where we go if we want a fancy meal. They make carrot curls to put with all the sandwiches, and they use sprouts instead of lettuce. I'm enough of a hippie to know this is completely a hippie thing. And then, of course, there are these houses that the hippies have built out of parts out of all the other old houses that used to be here. The doors and windows don't match, and when they invite you over to drink a wine, you drink out of earthenware cups that one of their ex-old ladies made herself. I don't like the phrase old lady at all, but these are the words they use. Oh, and there's a bookstore with lots of poetry called Innisfree, which I had to look up, but now I know the reference, and I really like the idea of a lake isle. That's not where Cannon Beach is. It's on the coast, with huge lurking haystack rock looming just out in the tide, covered with seagull shit, though it does look like a haystack if you squint. But there's also old Cannon Beach right alongside it, like there are two dimensions you can occupy at the same time. If you decide to go crawdad hunting, for instance, like we recently did, you have to go to the old store that looks like it's 1940 in there, and the old guy who runs it will explain how to catch the crawdads with nothing but a coffee can and some bacon. The hippies think you should use cantaloupe. So I'm here to spend the summer at the Coaster Theater. It used to be a roller rink, but now it has seats and lights. I'm one of the interns, which means that I don't get paid, and I don't get very big parts, but I do get to be on stage. For instance, for the first play we did, I got to paint the sets and also play a dyke, which I was not sure how to do. I'm very, very interested in dykes, but I've never ever even had sex with a girl, excuse me, a woman, so I have only a little bit of a complex about how to portray this character. But she has only one line, so I'm not stressing out. The Coaster Theater is right down the block from Innisfree, which is where all of the other interns bought me my birthday present, a copy of Jill Johnston's book, Lesbian Nation. This is the first book all about lesbians I have owned, and I carry it with me everywhere, partly because that way perhaps an actual lesbian might notice it, but also because it's really very amusing to watch guys who see me carrying it. Sometimes it fucks with them, so that if we find ourselves down on the beach later with all the others, everyone goes down to the beach at sunset to make a fire and drink sangria or whatever. If we're down there and everybody's figuring out who you're going to have sex with, and I make it clear that I fuck men, they get so confused. I've heard people say that bisexuals are confused, but listen here, it's really all the other people. This one time I was on the beach at sunset with all the gathered people. Us from the theater, some of the hippies, a few ABFTs, and some people who were passing through, and I'd already had sex once down there. But just like on the riverbank at home, you get sand all up in you. I have been trying to use the phrase, you're a cunt, but I'm still a little scared to say it out loud most of the time. Anyway, I slightly fucked one of the nerdier actors, and then I decided to go home to the cabin, and headed up the sandy path with the scrubby tall seagrass growing out of it that you can use to haul yourself up. But you have to be very careful grabbing it, or you slice yourself on the edge of the stalks. Up at the top of the path is the highway, and across the road at an angle is where I live. I live in the cutest little cabin, one of those places that used to be a motel in the olden days. I live there with Barbara, another one of the interns, and I have to be honest with you, I'm still in love with her. She's a little older than me, and she has an excellent taste in music. I've learned so much from her, and also enjoyed her record collection very much. And she comes from a shitty little Oregon town that time forgot, just like I do. And like me, she was the weird, political, too smart to fuck girl. When we met, we were both wearing POW bracelets because we both hated the war and felt sorry for the people who had to go fight it. So we bonded, and then she taught me all about the more obscure David Bowie tracks, and John Prine, and Aztec two-step. Oh, and I said I was too smart to fuck, but guess what? I fucked anyway. I don't know if she did, actually. She said she did, but she won't have sex with me. Maybe she's just completely straight. I mean, everyone is really basically bisexual, of course, but many times that fact becomes obscured. Oh, I was telling you about leaving the beach that time. I got home to the little clapboard cabin with the red trim. I love that cabin. It has one main room and a kitchen and a bathroom because, of course, it was once a motel long ago. Now it's furnished all adorably, and Barbara and I are very happy there, almost as happy as if we were girlfriends. This one night, I had my key out as I crossed the highway, and when I started walking across the white gravel of the parking lot, I saw two guys sitting out on our front steps, talking worriedly to each other. They were kind of scruffy, and one of them was pretty cute. I didn't recognize them from town, but they didn't look like ABFTs. Oh, ABFT stands for another bunch of fucking tourists. That's not what we were. We were summer people. The hippies and old-timers might live in Cannon Beach year-round, but it was a summer town. And if you stayed the whole summer to work, you were an insider, sort of. But hitchhikers weren't ABFTs, even though they were just passing through, and these guys were hitchhikers. I greeted them and asked them what they were doing on my porch. Oh, wow. Do you live here too? We met Barbara in town and came back here with her. But we're all worried now because she said she forgot her key, and she had to go crawl into the bathroom window to get us in. But it's been a while, and the lights are all out inside. Did she hit her head and pass out, do you think? This was the cute guy talking. He seemed somewhat stoned, but was in fact visibly concerned also, even though I was not stoned myself. I could see that he was having a little trouble thinking the whole situation through. I already had an idea about what was really happening. So I opened the door with my key. Sure enough, it was dark. And huddled on the floor in the bathroom was Barbara, hiding from the hitchhikers. But that clever plan was now fucked because they came in behind me and were about to see her there. "Get rid of them," she hissed. "But you invited them in and then hid," I protested. "They're our guests. I can't do that." "They think I'm gonna fuck them." "Well, I'm not gonna fuck them." Barbara was quite freaked out, and I admit I was on edge, but I also got a bit of insight about my inability to do true love and camaraderie with Barbara into my first real lesbian relationship. But I was torn, because I took my responsibility as host very seriously. Plus, these were two more guys that I might possibly fuck. It's not always easier to find a person to fuck when you're living in your own place, surprisingly, compared to living with your parents. But I'm in love with having a place, a new place, a cute little cabin that I'm at least the half mistress of, and I'm also trying to fuck as many people as possible before the end of the summer. So, really, I think Barbara could have predicted what I would say next. "Well, I'll fuck them." Really, I thought this would take her off the hook, but she freaked out worse. And in the middle of a sudden crying jag, she ran out of her house. Is she okay, man? I wish men wouldn't call girls man. It's not a generic name, but he did seem like a nice human, concerned about Barbara and everything. Oh well, sometimes things get a little intense for her. And this was true. You should have seen it when I mistakenly washed the dishes that included the drinking glass with her contact lenses in it. I mean, the fact is, she did leave that glass right by the kitchen sink. "But you guys can stay," I added. "Did she say you could crash here? Are you hitching up the coast?" "Oh, that's so nice of you, man. Yeah, we do need a place to crash. Yeah, we're traveling up from California and we might go all the way to Seattle." This is what guys said who really were just probably going to stop in Portland. But I have to admit that this situation turned me on. I thought hitchhikers were hot. Also, I had absolutely nothing against threesomes, although in my experience, two guys did not always have what it took. Those guys weren't very bi, because they would get too scared by each other's presence. These guys were traveling together, so that was hopeful, but you never knew. I lit a candle, turned most of the lights down, and grabbed my diaphragm. "Excuse me, I have to go put it in my diaphragm," I announced. I have read Our Bodies, Ourselves, and far from being ashamed of contraception, the fact is I am very proud to have a diaphragm. It signals that I take care of myself, but also know the pill is a possibly dangerous chemical thing. Hippies generally appreciate this, though not everybody else. And I had taken the bus to Portland as soon as possible after my dad dropped me off in Canyon Beach to make a secret visit to the clinic. So, I had a diaphragm, and announcing this meant the festivities could begin. When you fuck two guys, there's this thing. If they're not very bi, who do you fuck first? Sometimes you get to choose, but other times this is a complicated arrangement between them. These two guys, they were clearly close friends. I was more attracted to the cute one, which I figured was natural, and they had been hitching for a while, so perhaps this was something they had already worked out. I basically only know how to announce clearly that I am up for sex, then use touch and eye contact to communicate further. I am well aware that letting the guy take the reins is problematic. Did I mention that I'm a feminist? But the fact is, I'm not sure how you take the reins yourself. Where exactly do you learn that? Anyway, at least these guys were nice. And in fact, I lucked out, because my cuter guy went for me first, and we took over the whole double bed in several different directions, while the less cuter guy sat curled up on the floor. After fucking, the cuter guy was expansive and sweet. I'm going to call you Nancy, he said. We stopped off at a gas station a few days ago to use the can, and there was this woman there getting gas, and she was really nice to us and bought us food. Her name was Nancy, or maybe we just called her that because of the Beatles song. I don't remember, but now I call all nice women Nancy. That's your name now, okay? You're so nice to us. Well, that was jumping the gun a little because I had not actually fucked his friend yet. But I did intend to. I'm keeping a list, and I feel I have some catching up to do with all the people who haven't been stuck in high school in a fucking jerkwater Oregon mountain town where it might as well be the 1940s. My basic feeling is that the main way a woman joins the 1970s is to catch up on fucking. Also, knowing about the politics of things is very important, though I will be honest with you that I am not sure exactly what Jill Johnston is talking about. The lesser cute guy and I got busy next as the first cuter guy started laying out their sleeping bags carefully on the floor. That was thoughtful. Some guys would just assume the bed was theirs, I bet, instead of Barbara's and mine, though I was pretty sure I wasn't going to see Barbara again before tomorrow noon. The lesser cute guy and I had an issue. He started complaining in the middle that he could feel something inside my vagina. I don't actually like that word either, by the way, and it didn't feel good. I realized that it was my diaphragm he was talking about. I guess his cock would rub up on that edge that you squeeze together to make sure it stays tight and keep the sperm out. Anyway, he didn't like it. He wanted me to take the diaphragm out. No way, I cried. This is the only thing between you and me and getting pregnant. I don't even know who you are. I'm not going to have your damn baby. Yeah, man, murmured the cute guy from his sleeping bag. You can see her point, right? Lesser cute guy grumbled, but acquiesced, and eventually we worked it out. Good night, Nancy, said the cuter guy, and we all slept sweetly, more or less, and in the morning, long before Barbara came back, I had made him coffee, and we were thumbs out on the side of Highway 101. Thanks.